This is Cruise Control. Your on-air automotive magazine with co-hosts Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Everything you need to know about new and used cars. Industry news. We'll fix or repair your car on the air. Fasten your seatbelts and let us take the wheel. Now, your ride is about to begin. Because you're on Cruise Control. Cruise Control. Cruise Control.
Hello and welcome to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. I'm Fred Staub. Les Jackson will be right with us in a couple of minutes, and we're here to provide you with a great edition of the show, which is going to have plenty of news and information about what's going on in the auto industry. Everything from new models, pricing, to, I don't know, Tesla. We'll talk about that. But let's get started. Ford's CEO Jim Farley says he can make an EV less expensive than the Maverick Hybrid. And he has plenty to think about when it comes to where he will build future vehicles. We'll let you know about that. And then Mazda says it's found the sweet spot, and it happens to be plug-in hybrid SUVs. And they're going to talk about how the U.S. buyers want luxurious SUVs that are capable of towing and are plug-in hybrids. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then good news, Jeep is cutting the price on one of its most popular models. We'll tell you what that is and how far they're cutting. And as the Tesla turns, an anti-Tesla commercial in the Super Bowl runs into its own problems. We'll tell you what happened there. And the Cybertruck is made from stainless steel. We know that. Well, then why is it rusting? A lot of new buyers are saying they're having rust issues on the stainless steel truck. We'll delve into that, and that's all part of our As the Tesla Turns. Also, we're going to tell you about Kia. Could there be a new Stinger replacement coming up in their lineup? And what would that be? And what would it be powered by? We'll talk about that. And we're also going to talk tech. A Ferrari that lets the driver switch sides. Yes, you can move your seat and steering wheel and pedals to the left or right side. Could be great if you're driving through Europe. You're in France, you go through the channel, and then you just slide your seat and steering wheel over to the right side for the UK. Who knows? All that and more when we get rolling on this edition of Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. So you want to stay tuned because we're just getting started. And that's big news for Ford, actually, because they are talking about, the UAW is talking about striking their Kentucky plant where they build the Ford Super Duties. So we'll talk about some of the comments Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford, made this week. And it seems like that situation could be heating up. Also, very interesting his comment on how he could make a less expensive electric vehicle. Less expensive than that Maverick Hybrid, which is pretty inexpensive to begin with. I'm Fred Staub. He's Les Jackson. He'll be right back. We'll both be back on Cruise Control.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. It's Fred Staub. Les Jackson will be a little delayed this week, but we've got plenty to talk about. Jim Farley, who is Ford's CEO, has had a lot to say lately. And one of the big things he's been talking about is Ford rethinking its strategy when it comes to electric vehicles. If you recall, we told you last week on Cruise Control, it was the fact that they said they were losing $36,000 on every electric vehicle they built. So that would be the Ford Lightning F-150 and the Mach-E. So that's not a sustainable business plan. So Jim Farley was talking this week, and he said he believes he could build a smaller EV, and it would be based probably around the size of an Escape. It's interesting. The Escape is a great seller for Ford, but they were talking about dropping it from the lineup. I don't think they will do that now because it is available as a plug-in hybrid and a hybrid. There's a lot of discussion that they would drop it from the lineup. With the changes in the last couple of months in the auto industry, I don't think they will. But Jim Farley is saying that he believes he could build an EV somewhere around the size of the Ford Escape for less money than the Maverick Hybrid. I believe the Maverick Hybrid is around $25,000 to $27,000. The problem is, would they be able to make money on it? And that is a good question because he was saying they were talking about competing with the Chinese brands. And later on, we're going to tell you about a Chinese brand called BYD that is popular in across the global automotive industry. And brands like that can build cars very inexpensively. And if Ford leaves the inexpensive electric vehicle market, it just doesn't play in that market, they'll never get back into it. So that could mean that they could lose 20 to 30% of their revenue from entry-level electric cars, and they don't want to do that. So they are rethinking about how they would build a car that is the size of the Escape for less money, less than, let's say, $27,000, $25,000, something like that. Now, the problem with that is Jim Farley was also talking in a Fortune article this week about how he was pretty upset about the UAW deal because he felt targeted, that they wanted to work with the UAW, but the first thing they did was they shut down and struck at a plant that builds F-150s. And he basically said he was talking at the Wolf Research Global Auto Conference in New York. He basically said that he kept that type product in the U.S. because he felt it was worth investing in U.S. workers and keeping the work here. But now, after the poor experience he had with the UAW negotiation and them shutting down the plant as one of the first plants to shut down, that he's going to think very strongly about where he builds future vehicles. You couple that with trying to build a vehicle for $25,000 to $27,000, probably means he probably will not be building this electric vehicle in the U.S. They just can't afford to do it. Couple that as well, there's a threat of a strike by the UAW at the Kentucky plant, Ford plant, that builds Ford Super Duties. They, even after the contract was signed, there's still some lingering issues, and they're looking to strike down there. So a lot of things going on at Ford. But my takeaway from all of this is the idea, not that long ago, just a few months ago, they were saying, Ford was saying, Jim Farley was saying, We're not going to build vehicles like the Escape or the Edge that are just, okay, but they're not sales leaders. I think the Edge has gone away, but I do believe that we will see the Escape continuing on in the Ford lineup. Who knows? Maybe they'll even drop an electric drivetrain into it, if that is possible to do. But once again, that is available as a plug-in hybrid and a regular hybrid, so I don't see it going anywhere soon. But we're going to take a break. We won't be going somewhere. Just for a few minutes we'll go somewhere, but we will be back on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Stay tuned. Maybe we should
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. We are talking about, the big change in the automotive world just a very short while ago. Manufacturers were saying, it's electric vehicles, won't be but a few years, and will be all electric. Well, what happened? Vehicles got very pricey, and people balked at it, and really they're looking for plug-ins and hybrids right now. GM is even reaching back into their product lineup and saying, we're going to make some hybrids and plug-in hybrids. But one brand that has said they found the sweet spot in what Americans want is Mazda. And Mazda says the sweet spot is electrified, large, luxurious crossovers that are plug-in hybrids or hybrids. You remember they had an electric vehicle they tried that I believe was the CX-30, MX-30, and it was only sold in Japan. It had and California, and it was very, very, very low range. It really was not the product that, I think it just wasn't, I don't know why they were doing it really. It was more like a compliance car, where they were just trying to be a player in that. And they really rethought their whole philosophy and decided, hey, let's go hybrid. Let's go plug-in hybrid. And they did it at a critical time in the auto industry where kind of opinions were changing. So I think this will end up being a really smart move for Mazda. I think it just seems like they have great timing. It really does. It really does. That they've really timed the market perfectly. Sometimes you just luck out with that. And it's just the way it is, It is really good timing on their part. Interesting to see the brand transition from Zoom Zoom to luxurious SUV. Of course, the interiors on Mazdas have gone up in quality, in amazing fashion in the last couple of years. And, they really have transitioned the brand, and I think they're transitioning it again as well. So that is great timing on the part of Mazda, and we can expect a lot more luxurious plug-in hybrids from them. And I think many of the other manufacturers wish they had that sense of timing too. Sense of timing is great when it comes to Jeep because they are dropping the price of the 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee by up to $4,000. And it is the great news because Grand Cherokee remains popular. Remember, it's going to get a new engine set up. They're going to move to the Hurricane Straight 6 engine, and that comes in a lot of different trims. They're doing away with the Hemi. I imagine they will keep the 3.6 there. I'm not sure, but we'll see. But they were going to have this Hurricane Straight 6 engine that will go all the way up to a twin turbo version over 500 horsepower. But in the meantime, they have dropped the price. And there are a few minor updates for 2024, mostly a carryover model. But the Grand Cherokee Laredo gets a $2,000 price reduction, while the limited trim has a $3,500 price reduction. And even the more premium Overland and Summit trims have had their prices reduced by $4,000. This is great news. It really is. And when you think about this, there's also news this week that the margins, so what the dealer makes on vehicles, are going down, meaning that they're making less on the vehicles, which means they're not charging over MSRP as much or by as large an amount. And that is great news. It really is, because we went through that period where everyone, I remember somebody bought a Honda Accord and they said, well, we have to charge you $5,000 over the sticker. We just have to do it. And now, that's going away, and it should go away. You'll still see it. I mean, as much as manufacturers say, that they don't want people to charge over MSRP, they do. And that's still a problem. But we'll see. We'll see if that continues in the future. I think it will on certain models. I do. I do think it will. Um, when we come back, we're going to talk about Tesla, and this is just a strange problem because we always have it as the Tesla turns. The Cybertruck. Okay, it's built out of this special stainless steel exterior, untreated, and you should clean it with a piece of Brillo. I believe that's what they used to say with the DeLorean to get out any scratches or whatever. And it should be impervious to most things, as anyone that has ever built anything and you want to have the hardware not rust. Well, you use stainless steel. Well, for some reason, the Cybertrucks are rusting, and several owners have discussed this, that they are seeing orange streaks on the on the vehicles, which is terrible, which is really terrible. And I just don't know what to say about that. It just seems terrible that is happening, but it just doesn't seem out of line for what goes on at Tesla. We'll have discussion on that and what might be causing that, and yeah, it's just, I don't know. Les, are you with us? Let's see. Yeah,
Not yet.
yeah, I don't think so, not yet, but. We will discuss that why it's rusting, and why it is doing that. I mean, it just seems like it shouldn't be doing it. I don't know, but also this was an interesting discussion for the Super Bowl. There was a anti-Tesla ad. It's a group that says, the self-driving system is causing accidents, getting people injured, getting people killed. And they ran an ad in the Super Bowl where they highlighted this and put on a dramatic ad to show these things. And that I think it's the second year they did this. But one of the big problems is they use the NHTSA, National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration logo in the commercial as part of the commercial, probably saying NHTSA is looking into this or whatever. Well, they got a cease and desist order on that because you can't use NHTSA's logo without their permission, and they did not get permission for that. So certainly not something you want to do. I can tell you that. You just don't use their logo without getting their permission for that. So when we come back, we're going to talk about Stinger. Stinger is a high-end vehicle that is currently produced by Kia, but it's gone out of production. Will it be coming back, and what will it come back as? Hopefully not an SUV. We'll talk about that when we return on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Stay tuned.
Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control. We are joined by none other than Les Jackson.
Technical difficulties, folks.
Yeah,
No problem.
but
No
he
problem.
but he is right here and back with us, and that is great. And I wanted to get your take, Les, on the Cybertruck, because several people have said that it is rusting. They're getting orange stains on the exterior, and seems like that shouldn't be happening with a stainless steel vehicle, especially a stainless vehicle that is supposed to be high-end stainless steel, bulletproof stainless steel, actually. you know, all right. Well, where is Les? I think we.
But it does
Go ahead.
uh, it does rust. Stainless steel can rust.
Well, they're saying that if there's anything in the air, you drive through any debris on the road or gets oil from the road, that can start rusting the exterior. But here's the thing, when you design a car that's going to drive over roads, you might get oil and other debris on it, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the industry has been doing this for well over 100 years. They know what not to do.
Right.
So, what's happening? Well, I think maybe their supplier gave them the wrong alloy.
Wow.
Anything like that can happen. It's stainless steel is a tricky substance, and it's really tricky to weld.
Yes, very tricky to weld. I know that. I also looked. Someone was doing a review. I don't even know who it was, but because they don't provide press cars that we can review, it looked like the vehicle was in a car show, and he was doing a walk around with it, but he had access to it, and the body fit panels were wow, and it almost looked like the edge of the door didn't fit in the opening, so someone just took a angle grinder and ground the edge of the door off so it would fit. I mean,
At Tesla,
wow.
if you remember,
Yeah.
panels don't fit.
No, they don't fit, and if you just get the grinder out and make it fit, it's. I was shocked. There was one. I think it was the A pillar. There was like a top panel that had a connection to like a seam to the bottom panel, and it was at an angle. like it was like that. And it was like a big gap on one side and then no gap on the other. That's pretty bad.
It is pretty bad, and it's probably because the truck twists a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I have not seen one on the road.
Yeah.
But it'll. Well, I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to work out.
Yeah. But anyway, that is just another problem. Also, what do you think about this Tesla boycott ad on the Super Bowl? It is something called the Dawn Project. They aired an anti-Tesla ad. It is the second consecutive year, and it's talking about, well, full self-driving, which we know is not full self-driving, and it used kind of like a shock treatment of a child on a ventilator with a fractured neck and broken leg, and it kind of highlighted all these accidents. The problem was, and it says Tesla must be held accountable. It says boycott Tesla to keep your family safe, right? Now, difficult ad to make because somebody's going to come at you with a defamation lawsuit for sure. But they also used the NHTSA logo during the course of the ad without the permission of them. And I know that is a no-no.
You do not do that. I'm sure he has a cease and desist order, but I just think it was over the top and the wrong place to run that ad. I think there are better ways to do, PSAs and things like that.
Yeah. And this is obviously, gosh, millions of dollars to do this. He probably could have got more mileage across the year by just doing some other things. But
Cool news stuff.
when is the last time that has happened where a car company, someone has taken on a car company and actually run ads against the car company? There's got to be some history on that, right?
I think the Ford Pinto uh, situation, there were some ads run against it.
Okay.
There was they've Ford Firestone
Oh,
tobacco.
yeah, that was with the Ford Explorer, wasn't it? Or Explorer 2, I believe.
Or that did it. It was the Firestone tires, and every one of those deaths and crashes, they were grossly overloaded, driving them in very, very hot conditions. So, what do you expect?
Yeah, yeah, and they basically that was a vehicle that had a propensity to tip over as well, and so it was a bad combination. So bad
Yeah,
combination.
it is a bad combination, and it's kind of a lot of those are spurred by the attorneys that want to get a name for themselves, and of course make a lot of money.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Stinger. This was a kind of a halo car for Kia, and it never really sold the way it was. Remember, they had the designer from Audi came over to Kia, and this was going to be, sort of their high-end vehicle. This was going to be their luxury vehicle. I went to the launch of it. It was a great vehicle, but it never really caught on the way they thought it would. It was never perceived, I think, as a high-end premium Audi level car. And it's going away. We know that. Single generation of this vehicle. But now this comes from Car Buzz. They looked up this thing called the Korean Car Blog. And it seems like there is a codenamed GT1 EV that will be replacing the Stinger, which is good news, isn't it?
An EV these days, but obviously they're looking. The interesting thing about the Asian car companies is that they look long term. They're not wed to the stock market where you have to have quarterly profits or you kill yourself. So I think I think because they're in it for the long haul, I think it's going to be a quality product. We know it will, and people ultimately will buy it, and you get the $7,500 EV credit because it'll be produced here. It's and it'll be fast.
Yeah, yeah, it certainly will be fast. That's for sure. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with it, right?
Yeah, it is a good looking car. But honestly, I was not impressed with the interior of the existing Stinger. I think maybe I'm the only one, but it just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, just didn't do anything for you. Okay. All right. All right. Well, we will continue to look at that and see what the GT1 is, and we will talk about it more when it comes out for sure. Right?
Absolutely. We'll get the opportunity to drive it sometime.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. Well, this was interesting news this week. Mitsubishi announced that they have a plan to save itself in America. And they've had some luck in America, of course, but in recent years their lineup has been very cut back for sure. They have the Outlander and the Outlander plug-in hybrid, but not a heck of a lot more. Automotive News is reporting that there will be big changes at Mitsubishi. So we'll talk about them when we come back on Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Les, we were talking a little bit before the break about Mitsubishi, and their lineup has continuously shrunk down, hasn't it, in the last couple of years?
It sure has. And that's too bad because I've always kind of had a soft spot for Mitsubishi. I used to love their 3000 GT VR4 back in the 90s. And
yeah.
They made some interesting products and not real expensive. And, I hope they can turn it around.
Yeah, I hope so too. And, I think they will. They have a plan, and it was detailed a little bit in Automotive News by Mitsubishi's North American chief, Mark Chaffin. And they talk about plug-in hybrids across the board. They talk about a larger SUV. They talk about a lot of models. But right now they have the Outlander, they have the Eclipse Cross, and that's it. And they have apparently a lot of products in the works, but we don't know what that means, do we?
No, we don't. It'll be SUVs.
Unfortunately.
I'm going to guess that they're going to make a small truck.
You mean they, what was their truck called? Do you remember?
Oh, boy.
It was a rebadged Nissan, wasn't it? Which would make sense now because they're tied in with Nissan.
Yeah, I will remember that in a moment.
But the good thing is Mitsubishi is tied in with Nissan, and they now have a great source of products. They're doing in Europe. They have a Peugeot that they rebrand. I don't think that is the way to the future. One way to the future would be potentially an inexpensive electric vehicle. A lot of people are talking about that. I think they should certainly go all hybrid or all plug-in hybrid. That would be interesting. They have to differentiate themselves somehow, don't they?
They do. Was the truck the Mighty Max?
Oh, I think that goes back a few generations, but there was one after that, and it was basically a Nissan Frontier, I think, with a lot of cladding and, try to make it look different. But that certainly, that's what I would do. I would do a inexpensive, you gotta crunch down and really use, your global nature, inexpensive pickup truck to compete with the Maverick. I would do an inexpensive EV, and then everything else would be hybrid or plug-in hybrid at a lower cost. I just don't know what they have in the pipeline, though, too. But let's talk a little tech. You like talking tech, don't you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk tech, and it has to do with Ferrari, one of those inexpensive brands, right?
Yes, you were just talking about affordable cars.
Yes, this would not be our affordable car. No, but Ferrari, this comes from CarBuzz too, and I believe they have an insider at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Ferrari's latest patent shows how a supercar could realize customizable driver controls capable of moving all around the cockpit. And it's just like, what was that McLaren? Do you remember the McLaren where you sat in the center?
Yeah, the F1.
Yeah, so you could have a vehicle that you could be left-hand drive, right-hand drive, or center drive. And I used the example earlier in the show. Well, you're driving around in France on the left-hand side. As you go through the channel, or maybe your car is on a train going through the channel, you can slide your steering wheel over to the right, and when you come out on the other end, you're set up for the UK. What do you think of that?
It would be terrific, as long as you could afford a Ferrari. But
Well, the special sauce here that's going to make this happen is steer by wire, brake by
right,
wire, and even clutch by wire. Now, steer by wire, we don't quite have that yet, do we? But to me, that is going to be a major thing for packaging vehicles in the future, not just Ferraris.
that's right. We have electric steering now. It's quite common, but that's an electric motor on the steering shaft.
Right.
Whereas steer by wire would just be a wire connected to your steering wheel, and the steering motor would be down on the rack.
Yeah. I mean, something like this has been done. We fly by wire now in jets. That is common. It used to
Sure.
be pulleys and cables extending, all the way back to the end of the plane. But there's no reason why we couldn't do that. Think about how easy that would make putting headers in if you didn't have a steering shaft.
That's very true. Now, obviously, if it could fail, but there are all sorts of fail safes in a system like that.
Uh-huh.
That it would, I don't know what it would do, but in order to pass all of the government safety for all countries, it would have to be foolproof. Um, but fools are very clever, and 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 things can fail. I mean, look at the airplanes that have crashed because of fly-by-wire.
Yeah. Well, I mean, no problem on the accelerator pedal. Those are all electronic and by
So
wire.
electric. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So, clutch pedal, I
Yep.
I think that could be more of a problem. Brake pedal, you know, brake
Well,
pedals are still mechanical, I believe, aren't they?
well, not really. I mean, basically, when all ABS uses a motor, an electric motor, to pressurize. So all the brake pedal's doing is telling the motor how much pressure you want,
Yeah.
and it's mostly electronic.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting stuff. I think of how easy it would be to convert these cars for different markets, and
Yeah, like
then
just take the wheel here.
your airplane. Here comes the steering wheel. You just slide it over like you're sliding a drink down the bar. Hey, want the
Yeah,
steering wheel?
exactly.
Um, I find it an interesting concept, and I don't know what it would be like. I mean, I've driven race cars where you sort of sit in the center, but I just don't know
True.
what it would be like to drive in the center of a vehicle going down the road. I think it would be a little bit odd, but
Well, wouldn't it be like a motorcycle?
I guess so. I guess so. So
I don't know.
that's a patent coming in from Ferrari, and yeah, it's. What do you think about the story we did earlier? Auto retails report falling vehicle margins.
Yep.
Vehicles are selling closer to the MSRP than ever before.
Well, as one who is going to be in the market for a car this year, I'm very pleased with that
Yeah.
story.
Yeah. I mean, where else? There's not many other places where, I guess, unless you're buying a house and it goes into a bidding war, that pretty much if someone says, well, it's this much, it's either that much or it is, something less. So,
Right.
hey, we appreciate you listening to Cruise Control, your on-air automotive magazine. It's time for me to say I'm Fred Staub.
I'm Les Jackson.
We're going to see you down the road.
Bye.